Can we eat with you? Girl with sister on lap shocks millionaire, changes everything at 3 a.m. The clock struck 3 as whispers filled the dimly lit diner. The smell of greasy fries hung heavy in the air, something disturbingly comforting about it. But this night? This night had an electric pulse, a weird buzz that made everyone in the room hold their breath. It wasn't just the hour, it was the strange girl sitting in the corner booth, cradling a younger girl on her lap, both wearing the wide-eyed shock of something profound. The millionaire, an older man with money so vast it felt like a mountain, froze. His thick fingers gripped the edge of the marble table like it was a life raft. People stole glances, murmurs spreading through the diner like flames licking at dry wood. Who are they? What do they want? All eyes were glued to that booth, the air thick with tension. The girl had a thin, wild mane of hair, dark as a raven's wing, falling wildly around her face. She was saying something, demanding something, and the words hung like thick fog, garbled and unsettling. Can we eat with you? The question echoed, conflicting with the dead silence of the diner, while adrenaline pushed against everyone's chests, making hearts race. The lanterns flickered, casting shadows that danced along the walls, and for a split second, time felt suspended. The millionaire's eyes darted, caught off guard, then narrowed. They were layers deep in his world of privilege. How dare anyone disrupt his lonely supper with their unrefined needs? But there was something enchanting about the girl. Something otherworldly, perhaps. The way she smiled, a mix of innocence and mischief, made the room hold its breath again. As the tension spiraled, a waitress with a chipped nail made her way anxiously towards the commotion. She hesitated, feeling the weight of the moment. With a shaky hand, she brushed a strand of hair behind her ear, eyeing the girls with a strange mixture of fear and curiosity. There was an unspoken challenge in the air, a heavy question hanging above everyone. What were they doing here? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The millionaire shifted, eyes narrowed. There was a rumble in his chest, something dark and stormy brewing, as he leaned forward. What do you mean, eat with me? You think this is a game? His voice boomed, cutting through the tension like a knife. Gasps mingled with whispers. The girl, unfazed, simply tilted her head, her eyes glinting with mischief. It's not a game, it's an invitation. And just like that, chaos erupted. The waitress gasped, the other patrons flinched, but the girl only smiled wider. Something was about to change. Something big. The curious silence broke with the crackling sound of shattered expectations. What was really going on here? The air buzzed, electrifying. But as the clock continued its relentless ticking, what would this night bring? What secrets would unfold? The millionaire leaned back, disbelief washing over him. This was absurd. His gaze darted around the diner, seeking an ally, but all he found were wide eyes and eager ears greedily soaking up the unfolding drama. The air crackled with tension. The world outside fell silent as if the night itself was holding its breath. Listen, he hissed, low and threatening. You can't just waltz in here and demand anything. Do you even know who I am? The room seemed to shrink as silence fell again, like a thick fog rolling in. It was as if the universe was waiting for a response, threading trepidation through every soul present. Do you? The girl shot back, her voice steady and teasing. It was a challenge masked as a question. For the first time, the corner booth felt like a strange theater, everyone the audience, the girls the main act. You're just a man with a pile of money. But money can't buy everything. What did she mean? Murmurs flickered across the table like wind-whipped candle flames. The waitress hung back, her heart racing. She was caught in a game she didn't understand but felt drawn to. Her eyes darted to the younger girl, who was watching everything with a serious gaze. There was wisdom in those innocent eyes. Suddenly, the diner door swung open with a thud, slicing through the tension like a well-aimed dart. A man in a disheveled suit stumbled in, looking wildly out of place. His hair was a tangled mess, his eyes frantic, scanning the room until landing squarely on the corner booth. "Stop! You can't be here!" he yelled, pointing at the girls as if they were criminals. The collective gasp of the diner rose again, a wave of shock rolling through. "Who is that?" someone whispered, eyes darting around, searching for answers. The girl in the booth didn't flinch. "You know me. You've always known me," she said softly, a strange mix of nostalgia and challenge in her tone. "I'm just here to remind you of what you've forgotten." The man froze, confusion painting his features. The tension throbbed, thick and palpable, twisting knots in stomachs and tightening throats. What was the connection? What had they forgotten? The millionaire narrowed his eyes, every instinct telling him to leave, yet he couldn't. Something pulled him in closer, against his better judgment. "What do you know?" he demanded, this time softer, almost desperate. He hated how much his hands shook. "More than you think," the girl replied, her voice low, captivating. "You think you're safe, that your wealth protects you? But it doesn't. Not from me. Not from this." She gestured vaguely, and the shadows around her seemed to elongate, dancing in the dim light as if they held secrets of their own. "Get away from them!" the man in the suit cried again, his voice high and panicked. "You don't understand." "Don't I?" The girl stood suddenly, setting her sister down with a tenderness that contrasted sharply with the rising tension. The room, charged with emotion, was ready to crack like thin ice. In that moment, the diner's lights flickered again, plunging everything into near darkness. Gasps exploded in the dim light. The shadows shifted, stretching toward the $1 million man, claiming the space between them, seeking answers. He was no longer just watching, he was being drawn into something far beyond his world, and as the lights flickered back to life, the girl stood there, an enigmatic grin unfurling across her face. "Are you ready to eat with us now?" she asked, a thrilling challenge brewing in the depths of her gaze. The tension in the diner reached a fever pitch, hearts racing, breaths held. What would happen next? What deep-rooted secrets would tumble out into the open? But the man's response was cut short by a sudden loud crash from the kitchen. The crash echoed like a gunshot, sending shockwaves of anxiety rippling through the diner. The lights flickered again, stuttering like a faulty engine, leaving everyone on edge. Plates clattered against each other, and a gasp escaped the waitress's lips as she instinctively dropped a cup of coffee, the steaming liquid painting the tiles in dark brown. Everyone turned towards the kitchen, where the commotion continued, shouting, the clattering of pots, and the harsh metallic clang of something heavy hitting the floor. It sounded like chaos had erupted, a storm unleashed behind the swinging doors. "Stay here," the man in the disheveled suit ordered, his voice shaky but authoritative. His wide eyes darted between the girls and the kitchen, caught in a web of fear and urgency. He didn't want to lose sight of them, didn't he want them to vanish in the tumult. The millionaire's heart hammered in his chest. Instinctively, he moved closer to the girls. "What is happening?" he asked, his voice tight, the threat still hanging heavy in the air, wrapped in uncertainty. He glanced down at the younger sister, who was gripping her sister's hand, her face pale but resolute. The older girl shrugged off the man's intent gaze, as if she sensed a greater reckoning was brewing. "It's just part of the game, isn't it? Chaos always precedes clarity," she said, her tones calm amidst the storm. The strange words wrapped around him, like vines pulling him deeper into the mystery. Another loud crash echoed, and the diner's door flew open again, revealing a tall figure cloaked in shadows. The newcomer stepped inside, a crisp silhouette against the dim light, breaking the lingering tension like glass smashing on concrete. Curiosity flared and the diner's patrons inhaled sharply. Who was this? "Get out!" he shouted angrily, eyes blazing with authority, as he pushed further in. "You don't belong here." The man in the suit flinched, shifting defensively as if to protect the girls. "Not now!" he snapped, frustration bubbling beneath his carefully maintained poise. You don't understand what's at stake. The new visitor's gaze landed on the girls. The atmosphere crackled with palpable energy as all eyes followed the tension between the figures. The older girl raised an eyebrow, defiance flashing in her eyes. No one can decide who belongs where, especially not you. The millionaire stood frozen, the pieces of the puzzle flickering at the edges of his mind. Who were they? What was this game? Then, as if a switch had been flipped, the lights flickered one last time before plunging the diner into darkness. An ominous stillness filled the air, thick like molasses. A single thought raced through his mind: something terrible was coming, and he was right at the center of it. Suddenly, a scream pierced the silence, raw and aching. It spilled out of the kitchen, echoing with despair. The sound twisted the collective gut of the diner, leaving everyone breathless. A chill settled in as instinct kicked in the primal urge to flee. "Stay!" the older girl shouted, her voice cutting through the chaos. "Stay and hear the truth!" In that instant, the lights returned, revealing the distorted scene in the kitchen through a haze of confusion. An unseen arm grasped the disheveled man, pinning him against the counter, shadows dancing with malice. "Someone's going to answer for this," he growled, his voice strained, desperation licking his words. The realization gripped the millionaire tightly, and he found his breath hitching painfully in his throat. "What truth?" he whispered, eyes darting as reality began to unravel. Driven by instinct, he took a step back, heart racing at the implications of everything unfolding. What could he possibly learn tonight? And at what cost? But before he could turn to make sense of the chaos, the older girl stepped forward boldly. "They'll have to be stopped, and we may just need you to do it," she said. "Are you ready to join us?" Panic settled in his chest as the question hung between them, unyielding. What was his role in this unfolding nightmare? And that's when the shadows surged forward, closing in like a vice, and the truth, the awful reality, began to surface. The shadows coiled like serpents, twisting and contorting in the dim light of the diner. Tension hung thick in the air, heavy as a lead weight. The man in the suit felt a sickening churn in his stomach. "Join you?" he repeated, incredulity dripping from his voice. "In what world is that a good idea?" The older girl's eyes burned fiercely, reflecting the gravity of the moment. "In a world where we stop them before it's too late," she shot back, her voice tinged with a determination that sent a shiver down his spine. Another crash shook the establishment, and the chaotic sounds from the kitchen intensified, screams mingling with frantic shouts. Patrons began to inch toward the exit, their instincts screaming for safety, but the girls didn't budge. The younger sister clung to her sister's hand, terror flickering in her wide eyes. "What do you need from me?" the millionaire asked, an odd mix of fear and curiosity wrestling for dominance within him. The realization hit him then, like ice water splashed over his skin. He was drawn into this web, whether he liked it or not. The newcomer, still shrouded in shadows, advanced slowly. "We need someone with influence," he stated firmly, his voice low and edged with menace. "People will listen to you. They will act." The man in the suit swallowed hard. "Act on what? What am I supposed to tell them?" "Tell them the truth," the older girl interjected. "About what's coming. About what they don't see." His mind raced, piecing together fragments. The fear behind the girl's eyes, the urgency in the older sister's voice, it was all connected to something larger, some terrible force clawing at the edges of their reality. Suddenly, the lights flickered once more, and the shadows surged forward, revealing a grotesque scene in the kitchen. A figure had broken free from their grip, collapsing onto the floor, panic etched across their face, a cook, bloodied and bruised, scrambling for safety. "They're coming! We need to hide!" the cook yelled, each word a plea for survival. The tension snapped like a tight string, and the diner erupted into chaos. Patrons screamed and rushed toward the exit, pushing and shoving in a frantic bid for escape. It felt like a nightmare unfurling, and the man in the suit was caught in the storm. "Stick together!" the older girl shouted above the clamor. "If we separate, we're done for!" The millionaire felt an urgent pull toward the exit, instinct urging him to run. But beneath that, an ember of hope flickered. Perhaps he could do more than just flee. With a deep breath, he turned to the girls, grounding himself as the world spun wildly around him. What do I do? The younger girl stepped in front of them, her small frame radiating bravery beyond her years. Protect us. We're the key to stopping this, and you're part of it. There's no going back. The weight of responsibility settled on him, heavy and suffocating. All right, he agreed, steeling himself. I'll help. But first, we get out of here. Then we figure out what's next. As they moved together through the chaos, the shadows danced at the periphery, waiting and watching. That ominous presence lurked, relentless and hungry, as if recognizing that they were encroaching upon a battleground. Their pace quickened, adrenaline pooling in their veins. But even as they reached the exit, the towering figure from before blocked their path, eyes blazing with intent. You won't leave. Not until you understand what's truly at stake. The looming threat hung in the air, the tension thickening heavier than before. The man felt a visceral fear settle in deep within him, a certainty that whatever lay ahead was far worse than anything they'd encountered thus far. And as the figure's shadow stretched and swallowed the light, he started to wonder, could the truth really save them, or was it too late for salvation? The figure loomed larger, casting an elongated shadow that swallowed the dim light of the diner. The air thickened as the man in the suit stood frozen, his heart pounding like a drum in his chest. The older girl's grip on her sister tightened. A low growl emanated from the figure, reverberating through the space, and patrons pressed against each other in terror, their faces a blend of fear and disbelief. Who are you? The man in the suit demanded, fighting against the panic swelling inside him. The figure merely grinned, sharp teeth glinting like knives in the half-light. What I am matters little. What matters is what you will do. The voice dripped with ambition, twisted with malice. You cannot run from this. You never could. He felt the girls flinch beside him, their breaths shallow. The cook, still on the floor, had crawled back against the wall, shaking his head as if to ward off some unseen horror. Get away from them! The man shouted, bravado battling his true fear. Naive, the figure hissed, stepping forward and sending a shudder through the group. The lights flickered again, casting haunting silhouettes across the walls. You think you can protect them? You think you understand what you're up against? The older girl stepped forward, her small frame somehow igniting courage. We need to warn them. They won't listen without you. She cried out, her voice raw and desperate. Warn them? The figure scoffed, his laughter echoing ominously. You don't even know the truth. How could he convey a warning when he hasn't seen what lurks beyond the veil? Lurks beyond the veil? The millionaire felt his world tilting ever more dangerously off kilter. Shadows twisted, creeping closer, the air electric with fear. He glanced at the girls, whose faces mirrored his own dread. They were so small, and yet, in that instant, they seemed to carry the weight of the world. Your so-called truth isn't enough. The figure leaned closer now, his breath a chill against the back of the millionaire's neck. Until you grasp the power of fear, you will remain helpless. Enough! He shouted, his voice cutting through the thick chaos. He could feel the heat of their shared resolve, igniting something deep within him. I'm no stranger to fear, believe me. But I can't help if you don't tell me what's really happening. A pause. The figure's expression shifted, a fleeting flicker of surprise dancing across his twisted features. Interesting, he muttered, as if weighing the man's words like a coin. Another crash echoed from the kitchen, a reminder of the chaos they were entrenched in. We need to go! The cook screamed again, scrambling to his feet, eyes wild with panic. Yet, even as they stood at the precipice of action, the figure's shadow seemed to coil around them, stifling their escape. Tell me, what will you do? He taunted, his voice curling around them like smoke. Will you stay and face the abyss? Or will you turn your back on the truth, allowing them to feast upon your ignorance? The man in the suit swallowed hard. Sweat trickled down his back. The girls looked at him with eyes full of hope and fear, awaiting his decision. A sensation of futility clawed at him, but deep down, a flame flickered to life. We will face it together, he declared, words tumbling from his mouth as if guided by something outside himself. And if you fall short, the figure leaned back, satisfaction creeping across his face. I'll be watching. With a suddenness that set his heart racing, the shadows lunged, the world collapsing in on itself. The man braced himself, stealing against the darkness threatening to engulf them. Hold on! He barked as they fought through the pressing mass of shadows, the girls clinging to him like lifelines. But as the shadows tightened their grip, retreat became increasingly futile. A single realization struck him with the force of a hurricane: this was just the beginning. Were they prepared for the horror yet to unfold? And in that moment, he wondered not if they would survive, but what price they would pay to learn the truth. The shadows enveloped them, writhing like restless serpents, each tendril tugging at their resolve. Keep moving! The man in the suit shouted, desperation sharpening his voice as he felt the girls' tiny bodies pressing tightly against him. The diner's front door, a mere 15 feet away, loomed like a distant mirage, but every step took on the weight of desperate agony. With a roar, the figure lunged. The growl deepened into a guttural sound, vibrating through the floor, causing plates to rattle and topple. Patrons screamed, scrambling for salvation, but the figure remained fixed, an impenetrable wall of terror. Go! He urged, pushing the girls ahead, his heart racing. He could see their faces reflecting sheer panic, mirrored horror etched deep into their features. He squeezed their hands tighter, determined to lead them out of the abyss. In the frenzy, the cook, still shaken, dashed for a side exit, screaming into the night. Help! Somebody! Please! Wait! The man shouted, but it was too late. The cook's figure disappeared into the chaos outside, leaving them alone in the sinister shadow of the figure. Why do you resist? It spoke softly now, tauntingly. You think running will save you? It is the truth that you need. The voice was intoxicating, wrapping around him like smoke, pulling at his mind. He steeled himself, stretching the short distance to the door. I don't care what you say. I just want to protect them. Protect them? The figure scoffed, advancing, the shadows behind him swirling more violently. You are but a man. You cannot guard them from the chaos that is incoming. The lights flickered violently once more, the oppressive darkness thickening. Every instinct urged him to flee, but instead, fury ignited in his chest. You want to take them? He roared, a primal surge of protectiveness flowing through him. He shoved the girls toward the door. Go! Get outside! The younger girl shook her head, the terror in her eyes piercing him like a knife. I can't leave you! She cried. Just go! He urged. I'll find you. As the words spilled out, the moment hung in the air, a fragile tether between chaos and the promise of hope. In a whirlwind of fear, the older sister grasped the younger's hand, tears streaming down her cheeks. We have to! She shouted, and they hesitated no longer. They sprinted towards the door, the diner's exterior light flickering, illuminating their path one agonizing heartbeat at a time. Stop them! The figure roared, its voice now thunderous, shaking the very foundation of the diner. The air grew heavier as darkness surged toward him, an overwhelming force that threatened to pull him under. I can't hold on, he thought, despair creeping in as he reached for the girls, feeling them slip away, minute figures racing toward the light. They burst outside and the sound of the door slamming shut echoed, muffling their escape. He felt hollow, cut off from the one chance to keep them safe. Pathetic, the figure sneered, stepping ever closer, shadows cascading off it like liquid night. You think fear can be shielded? It will always find you. The man felt a surge of rage fueled by his helplessness. What do you want? He demanded, his voice trembling against the weight of the threat. The figure's sharp smile returned, an eerie gleam lighting its features. We aren't done here. Not by a long shot. You need to understand. You will suffer to gain what you need to know. Heat coursed through his veins, a fire against the ice of despair creeping in. I want to let you take them. You're wrong about me. Let the games begin, the figure whispered, an ominous finality in its voice. In that moment, the shadows lunged once more. He braced himself, realizing that he had a choice, to succumb to the darkness or face the terror head-on. The climax of his fate hung in the balance, and a desperate thought nagged at him as the shadows eclipsed everything. What if the true horror lay not outside, but within himself? As darkness closed in, he felt the walls of his resolve buckle, uncertain of what he would discover when the dust settled. The price of knowledge loomed like a specter, ready to extract its toll. Would he be brave enough to pay it? The question hung, heavy and oppressive, as he plunged deeper into the void. The grim shadows swarmed around him, cold and suffocating, the very essence of fear crystallized in the air. The weight of despair pushed down on his chest like a leaden weight, but amid the swirling darkness, rage flickered like a fragile flame. He refused to abandon hope, even as the darkness loomed ever closer. "You think I'll fall into your trap?" he growled, his voice a low rumble amidst the chaos. He clenched his fists, pushing against the urge to crumble. "You're wrong. I won't give in. I won't let you win." A low, sinister laugh echoed around him, the figures formed twisting in the shadows. "Win? No, my dear friend. It's not about winning or losing. It's about revealing what's hidden beneath the nice facade of your world." With every syllable, shadows lashed out like serpents, brushing against him as though testing his resolve. He felt their icy tendrils coil around his limbs, pulling him back, trying to drag him down into the depths of despair. "Enough!" he bellowed, summoning every ounce of strength. He pushed against the shadows, feeling the pull give way just a little, the momentary resistance igniting the fire within him even more. In the depths of the diner's chaos, adrenaline kicked in. He thought of the girls. Their faces flashed in front of him, reminding him why he had to fight. "They're out there, they need me," he shouted defiantly. Suddenly, from the edge of the darkness, a flicker of light broke through a fleeting image of the girls standing just outside the diner, huddled together, fear etched into their small faces. "Please!" The younger one's voice rang out, pure and desperate. At that moment, it became clear, the figure sought more than fear. It aimed to sever the bond that held him to the girls, to exploit any crack in his resolve. "Release them!" he shouted, his voice slicing through the air like a blade. "They're not part of this." The figure's sharp grin widened, unsettling and dark. "Ah, your love for them is your greatest weakness," it hissed. "But perhaps I can help you understand. Let us take a little journey and see where truth truly lies." Before he could react, the shadows surged. They enveloped him completely, and he felt his feet lift off the ground, like he was being yanked into the very fabric of the darkness. Suddenly, the world shifted. He found himself standing in an empty room, the walls pulsating with a strange, living darkness. The air felt thicker here, and with each breath, he sensed the weight of memories hovering just beyond reach. Flickers of scenes formed in front of him, each more disturbing than the last. He saw himself as a child, standing alone in a classroom, laughter echoing all around him, yet feeling utterly invisible. He saw moments of rejection, pain, isolation, all replaying in a rapid montage that echoed against his mind. The girl he had once loved, her face twisted in anger. His parents' disappointment, heavy and suffocating. Each memory bore down on him, wrapping him in a cocoon of regret. "No!" he shouted, trying to break the cycle, tears blurring his vision. "This isn't real." "Yet it is," the figure's voice echoed, now an omnipresent whisper wrapping around him. "This is who you are. You cannot protect them if you cannot face your own demons." As shadows lengthened and danced, he realized he had to confront his past. To protect the girls meant facing the darkness inside himself. But could he dare to dig deep enough? With newfound determination, he steeled his resolve, preparing to challenge the memories flashing before him. Would he uncover the strength to face the truth, or would he be lost in the nightmare forever? The shadows surged around him once more, but this time, he stood his ground. "Show me!" he yelled, ready to engage in the battle for his soul. In the depths of that suffocating darkness, did he stand a chance of reclaiming his heart? The answer loomed as a haunting question, and he fought against the engulfing shadows, yearning for liberation. The shadows writhed and pulsated like a living organism, each flicker revealing scenes he'd buried deep. He was standing at the threshold of his own memories, a precarious balance of fear and urgency. He had to confront them, yet the weight of dread pulled at him like quicksand. Images swirled faster now. There was that summer day when he'd never made it to the pool party, sitting on the swings while laughter floated by, the sun-drenched sky a stark contrast to his emptiness. He could almost hear his younger self whispering, "Why don't they want me? Why won't you show me something else?" He screamed into the depth of the void. "This isn't who I am anymore." "Ah, but denial will not sever the chains that bind you," the figure echoed, shadowy fingers stretching across memories, tugging at the tightly sealed doors of his heart. "Face your truths, and perhaps you will find the light." With a determined breath, he closed his eyes, summoning a shield of strength. The past would not dictate his future. He thought of the girl's eyes, wide and trusting, pleading for him to resist the temptation to surrender. "I choose to remember my strength." The air shifted, and he felt a thin thread of connection snap into place, binding him to the faces of the girls. Memories of joy flicked through like a movie reel, laughter at the park, hot chocolate shared on snowy nights, their innocent belief in his ability to protect them. With each joy, darkness shrank back, the shadows recoiling as if scalded. "No more!" he roared, the weight of his voice thundering against the silence. "You will not control me. I can be more than this." As he spoke, a new memory enveloped him, a day where he finally felt whole. He saw himself standing tall at a community center, coaching a battered youth soccer team. The spark of life in the kid's eyes ignited something within him, a flicker of purpose. With every high five and cheering word, he remembered who he wanted to be: a protector, a guide, a beacon in the dark. The figure twisted in rage, the shadows hissing and writhing, trying to pull him back into the depths. "You think this will save them?" it shrieked, its voice a cacophony of pain and malice. "Yes, I do," he countered, grounding himself in the bright memories that threatened to conquer the shadows fully. "I don't have to be defined by failure. I can choose to fight." In that moment, the memories surged forward, overpowering fear with love. The girls' faces materialized in the light, radiant and free. The pull of the darkness started to fade. It was like pulling a tight band and finally letting it go, the pressure dissipating, leaving space for hope. What's hidden beneath the facade of my world is not just despair. It's the connection I built. It's the love we share. The laughter of children filled the air, piercing through the shadows till even the sinister laughter crumbled. In this revelation, the shadows began to retreat, backing away as if afraid of the light he summoned. Almost there, he murmured, feeling the last remnants of despair fading into the darkness, the echoes of doubt quieting. But just as victory felt within reach, a whisper curled through the void, chilling and seductive. "Are you so sure you can protect them? Can you even save yourself?" The darkness roared back, swirling with renewed vigor, as if waiting for the slightest crack in his armor. Panic surged. Perhaps he wasn't done wrestling his fear yet. As the shadows surged forward, ready to reclaim him, he gritted his teeth. "I won't allow it. I refuse to be a prisoner of my past." Suddenly, a blinding light erupted, sending splinters through the darkness. He flinched, enveloped by an explosion of color and emotion. But could he successfully leave the shadows behind? The uncertainty loomed, threatening to pull him back as he teetered on the brink of liberation or despair. Would the enticing whispers have enough power to drag him back into the dark? The light enveloped him, a chaotic brilliance stitching together the fragments of his memories with threads of warmth. He felt the shadows clawing at him, desperate to reclaim their grip, yet his heart began to pound with a new rhythm, steady, assured. He breathed deeper, letting the light wash over him, pushing aside the lingering doubts that echoed in the dark. But the voices still nagged at him, strings of doubt that felt all too familiar. "You think you can just forget? After all the pain you caused?" They slithered like smoke, curling around his consciousness. Fear clamped around his throat, making it difficult to breathe. "Enough!" he shouted, forcing himself to open his eyes. The blinding light revealed a towering figure. The darkness contorted into a grotesque shape, a mirror of the past he had run from. Its eyes glimmered with mockery. You can't escape me. You invited me in. I'm part of you, it hissed, a serpent lashing out. Yet, at that moment, something inside him shifted. Memories burst through, not just the moments of joy but also the reminders of love and redemption. Flashes of laughter, shimmering moments he had once taken for granted, girlfriends cheering him on, friends offering steadfast support, and those precious few silent moments of solitude where he found solace in his own company. They interwoven around him like an unbreakable chain. I will not let you steal my light, he yelled. With every ounce of energy fueled by his determination, he pushed against the darkness, feeling the shadows surging around him, trying to trap him in their suffocating tendrils. As he fought, he realized that every painful moment was also a lesson learned, the tears shed, the apologies made, the bridges he thought he deep burned. You think fear can hold me back? He challenged, adrenaline coursing through his veins. Fear is just a nightmare waiting for dawn. With that proclamation, he felt the shimmering light intensify. Shapes began shifting, and the void responded. The malevolent figure writhed with fury, bending under the weight of his confidence. It clawed at him but couldn't reach his heart. Suddenly, the shadows manifested memories of the girls again, their faces twisted with fear and disappointment, leaving him with an aching guilt. What if you failed them again? The echoing whispers taunted, a haunting reminder of the past. No, he declared, his voice steady. I've already failed. But I learned, and I will stand. I know what's at stake. The energy around him pulsed. The air grew warm, enveloping him in a bright embrace as the shadows screamed in anguish. The environment shifted like a flickering film. Real darkness was being cast out with every powerful breath he took. He felt like a phoenix rising, every emotion fanning the flames of his resolve. But just as he approached the edge of true liberation, a familiar face emerged from the shadows, a girl he'd once let down, her expression sad yet hopeful. Can you really protect us? She whispered, a haunting plea that sent a chill through him. In that instant, he realized he couldn't just face the shadows of his past. He needed to face her, to vow he would fight for her future. In that fragile momentum, the darkness trembled. Could he truly redeem himself, not just for his own sake but for her, and all those he held dear? Would the shadows relent, or would they snatch him back, burying him deeper in regret? The echoes of uncertainty danced around him, mingling with the fading whispers. The battle was just beginning as he prepared for whatever light or darkness awaited. As he stared into the deepening shadows, something more sinister stirred. A flicker of hope interlaced with dread loomed, and he knew this was only the beginning of the real fight. The darkness swirled around him, but beneath the chaos, the embers of hope still flickered, refusing to be snuffed out. With every ounce of strength he had, he stepped forward, ready to break free from the chains of his past. I can protect them, he said, his voice resonating with conviction, vibrating against the walls of the memory-infused void. The figure writhed in frustration, malevolence clinging to it like a shroud. You're just a man with failures to haunt you. How can you think you can save anyone when you can't even save yourself? It hissed, slashing at him with dark tendrils that threatened to drag him back down. But he stood firm, fists clenched, the warmth of the light in his heart pushing against the icy despair. I will save them because I have the strength built from every scar and every lesson learned. You have no power over my spirit. As the shadows lunged, spitting darkness and lies, he summoned every joyful memory of the girls. Their laughter, their trust in him, their bright eyes, they filled his mind, burning brighter than any shadow. They need me. They believe in me. I'm their shield, and I will not let them down. With a primal roar that shook the ground beneath him, he thrust out his hands. In that instant, the light exploded outward, a dazzling blast of warmth that consumed not just the shadows, but the very space that held his doubts. He could feel the power wash over him, like a rush of summer rain breaking through a cold, damp spell. The figure shrieked, a sound of absolute fury, was engulfed as the blinding light wrapped tighter, twisting around it like a relentless storm, siphoning away its strength, dissolving the darkness like sugar in hot water. The air shimmered with the pure energy that pulsed from his redemption, his renewed determination coursing through every fiber of his being. In those heightened moments, he felt equilibrium set in, as if the balance of light and dark had begun to shift. The shadows began to dissolve, their grip lessening. I choose to face my past. I refuse to run. With a final surge of defiance, he pushed against the figure, feeling it begin to crack, its shadowy form breaking apart like brittle glass. You will not so easily take what is mine. And then, just like that, the darkness dissolved fully, leaving him standing in a luminous realm where hope glimmered like the first rays of dawn breaking the horizon. All the memories he had fought against transformed into visions of strength. In this newfound light, he turned and ran towards the exit, the way back to the diner visible as the shadows of his past fell away, replaced by a renewed sense of purpose. He burst through the door, the cool night air embracing him like a lover. The diner was still there, but the chaos had faded. The girls stood outside, wide-eyed and trembling, their little hands clasped tightly. Relief flooded through him at their sight, pulling the deepest parts of his heart back into reality. Seeing their innocent faces made everything worth it. Let us get out of here, he urged, the once impossible weight of his past no longer a shackle but a staircase to a brighter future. He lowered himself to their level, looking deep into their eyes. I was scared, and I messed up. But I'm here now, and I will always protect you both. I promise. The older girl nodded, her expression fierce yet trusting. You faced it, didn't you? You went into the dark and came back. He smiled through his tears. I did. And we'll face everything together from now on. No more running. And as they turned to leave, he felt a warmth in his chest, a sense of freedom that bubbled with possibilities. The deep echoes of his past did not disappear, they became part of him, woven into the fabric of who he was now, a protector, a father figure, someone who had walked through darkness and emerged into the light. With hearts bound in a new kind of strength, together they took one step after another, leaving the diner and its shadows behind. It was time for a new beginning. Now, before you go, this is the moment to show your support. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories coming your way. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. And I can't wait to hear your thoughts. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about how this adventure ended. Remember, share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions. Let's keep this amazing community growing together.